I'm going to get this going. The first thing from the first chapter that I wrote down was, what are your motivations? And then I said, are you helping people to decide what is best for them right now? And I thought that that was really great because I know that there are a lot of fears and objections among us as builders to like feel like we're convincing people. I've had a lot of people like that are my builders talk to me and be like, I feel like I can't convince anyone that this is worth it, or just different things like that, right? Um and I think if we all have that mindset as we're working, that is simply this, my job is to just present Plexus to the person, whether it's the business or the products, and to help them to decide, is this the right thing for me right now? And I think if we think of it like that, and then if we're like, okay, it's probably not the right thing for them right now, let's say the conversation goes that way, then we're okay with that because our goal was simply, is this the right thing for this person right now? Right. So that was the first thing I wrote down. And then I also wrote down, just as a note, don't think of it as closing. I have had sometimes even that thought myself, like when Leah's like, hey, how's your month looking? And I'm like, oh, I think I have two more people that I'm going to close. But I really actually don't like thinking of it like that. So I have tried to be really intentional with myself and my language. And I try to say, I have two more people I'm going to help this month, like when she asks me something like that. And so I wanted to present to you guys that maybe you try to be really intentional with your language around that. We aren't closing people. I like how she said that it gives you like that hunter mindset. We aren't hunting people. Hi, Bonnie's son, I think. Um, we um we are not hunting people, you know, we're not like in the jungle with a rifle, like, oh, I got one. And so I think if we use that language, even so, like instead of like, how many joins are you going to get this month? Use that language of how many people am I going to help this month? Or my goal is to help a new person this week. So I wanted to share that with you guys because that was really helpful for me. And I think it could be for you. And then my next thing was, do you guys feel like your ordering process is smooth? And I put for the gunslingers, meaning the people that are like, I love it. Yes, I want to order it now. Do you guys feel like that's a smooth process? Do you feel like if you're like, let's say, Bonnie, hey, can we hop on the phone and I'll answer your questions about blah? And the person is like, yes, you're on the phone and they're like, okay, I want to order now. Do you feel like, yes, I know what to do. I know what to say. I'm prepared for this. Like, I'm going to either like make a cart and share it, or I'm, like whatever it is you're doing. Do you guys feel smooth about that? And if your answer is no, then I want to schedule a time to get on the phone with you guys and we will pretend like we will straight up role play it. And that might look like, let's say, Bonnie, if you're a little unsure, then maybe me, you, and Cass will get on the phone and Cass will pretend like she's the person going to order and you'll pretend like you're bringing Cass to me and I'll pretend like I don't know, Cass. And like we will literally do a pretend conversation, a pretend sign up, and we'll just go through the whole thing. I really do feel like there's a lot of value in role playing stuff. Like let's pretend like we're doing it, and that way you guys can get a little bit more confident. The next thing that I was thinking was, I really, really loved some of her verbiage, and so I would suggest to you guys that you just take some notes on that. Um, I really liked how she would just say, like, do you need to know more or are you ready to get started? Like, just put it out there. There's a lot of times, and Leah has especially taught me this, that the issue isn't that the person is not ready. The issue is two things. We're not asking them to start, and B, they don't know the process of joining or whatever. They don't know, like, do we need to talk a bunch more times? Do we need to get on the phone again? Like, they have no clue. It's our job to be confident and be the authority on the situation and literally, ask, like, are you ready to do this? and then B, guide them through that process. And so skipping a little bit ahead, but I really, really liked that she talks about you have to tell them. So don't ask, oh, do you maybe want to get on the phone with my business partner? No, tell them the next step is we're going to get on the phone, Bonnie, so that you can meet Cass. Like that's what we're doing, you know? So you have to tell them. I, in my coaching calls to people, when people are struggling with this, tell them a lot to imagine you go to the ER, right? You get to the ER and they tell you, sit over there, right? And you just do. Why do you? Because they said so and they're in charge of that situation. And then if they tell you, the nurse is going to call you up in a minute, and then the nurse calls out, like Sandra Arnold, you're like, oh, yep, over here, I'm coming. You get up and you go to them. Why? Because they're telling you to. And then after you're done with the nurse and the nurse says, okay, I want you to go wait over there, and then they're going to call you back in a little bit, you just do it. You don't ever question, and they also always tell you. They don't ever just be like, okay, you're checked in, and then they say nothing else, and then you're just standing there and you're like, well, where do I go? What do I do? Right? That doesn't happen. So in our businesses, we need to be sure that we are the authority. We need to tell people where to sit, where to stand, what to do, and when to do it, just like they're in the ER. So when you guys are doing things like scheduling calls with people, offering them an event, finding out if they want to share, your language and the words that you use are extremely important. You could say, well, I mean, maybe if you want to get your products paid for, then you could tell a friend about this. You could say that. Or you could say, what we like to do is find someone to start with everyone, because statistics show that you're 80% more likely to have success and meet the goals that you want if you have a partner to get started with. Who would you like to do this with you? Which one, if you think about it, sounds like, oh yeah, that person's confident, oh, they know what they're doing, etc. Another place that I see this show up a lot in our business that I think is difficult is three-way chats. I've had so many conversations with so many different people, and they're like, that's weird. I don't want to just tell someone I'm putting them in the chat. I don't want to do it without asking their permission. And I felt like that when I first started. But I didn't have that mindset of it's like an ER and the nurse is telling me sit over there. We're telling people we're doing a chat. Why? Because we are the plexus worker. We're the authority. We know what's going on. We know what's happening, and we know the best, most efficient way to get someone from point A to point B. You have to pretend like they're a person who's bleeding out of their arm and comes into your ER, and you need to tell them where to go. And where to go is the three-way chat with your upline. Why? Because that's the ER doctor. Like, think of it like that. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. I also tell people this often, but if you ask, like, well, are you okay with me making a three-way chat? Or do you think it maybe that you would want to get on the phone sometime? People are a lot more likely to say no, because you're asking in them, they don't see the value in it. Because you pose it like a question, they're thinking, well, I have the option, so it's not something I have to do. So probably no, I don't want to get on the phone and talk to a stranger, right? On the flip side, if you tell them, I am so excited for you. I know that you're going to love this business. I really can't wait for you to meet my business partner, Cassandra. Let's get on the phone. That's the next step that we do is I introduce you, etc. You're going to be working closely with her. I really want you to get to know her. I think you're going to love her because she's also a nurse. They're probably going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, let's schedule a call, right? And it's not going to feel weird to them because, again, you're being that authority figure. You're saying, go sit over there. Here's what you do next. That's what we need to do in our business. And I think that that confidence can help us to be a lot more successful. If we are seeming not confident in what we're talking about, like, oh, maybe, or what do you think about, right? They're not going to just go do it. They're probably going to question you. So the next thing I wrote was, are you guys offering phone calls? Not just to sign a person up, although I want you on the phone with people signing them up if possible. But whether or not, so let's say, Bonnie, your newest join, let's say you were on the phone with that person when you signed them up, right? You should still be scheduling a welcome call with Cass or me if Cass is not available, like within a week. That's super important. And it really does help that retention of your business. Because here's the thing. Let's say that you sign the person up and a week and a half later, Bonnie, you get super sick and you're in the ER and you're intubated and you can't even talk. But I can pop in the chat and be like, hey, so-and-so, how you doing? Check on them, whatever. They've already spoke to me on the phone. They feel like they know me. They're going to have a little bit more trust. And I'm going to be like, I'm so sorry. Bonnie's unwell right now. I'm just here to, help take care of you until she's back. They're going to feel more okay about that. But if they don't feel like they know me at all, and then something happens to you, Bonnie, and then I'm just this weird stranger and they're like, hey, how's your poop? They're probably not going to want to talk to me, like for real. So that connection is super, super important. And deeper than that, there's your sign up phone call, there's a welcome call, then there's a business call, which if they're signing up for the business immediately, the welcome call, business call can kind of be combined. But if they're like starting with the products and then a few weeks later they're like, oh my God, I am in love and I want to tell people and now I want to do the business, you need to be doing a separate business call, because there's just some certain conversational things that are really important that happens on that business call that's different than a welcome call. Like asking the person, like, if time and money were no issue, what would be different in your life? That's not something you're going to ask a person just getting products, right? But someone doing the business, you're going to help them start to develop their why. And so that's a really important piece. Then deeper than that, there are vision casting calls. Vision casting calls mostly are used for people after they have signed up. And maybe they're still just like really skeptical or something, whether it's business or products, or they just don't have big belief in themselves, whatever that is. A vision casting call is where you schedule that call with your upline and you're like, hey, this person needs to learn how to dream. They need to learn how to believe in themselves. They're really doubtful or skeptical or whatever. And then the whole call is basically us helping them to dream, right? So it might be, Bonnie, I'm going to use you for an example. Let's pretend like you used to be a person that loved to ride bicycles. I don't know. And you always dreamed about being in a bicycle marathon. We're just going to pretend. So, but then stuff happened. You gained weight. Life is what it is. And you are like, you know what, Justina, I would like to get back to where I could ride bicycles. And I never, ever did participate in a bicycle marathon. But that's my goal. I want that, right? I'm going to get you on that vision casting call, and I'm not going to know that, but I'm going to say to you, Bonnie, what is something that you used to do before you gained to this weight that you loved? And then you're going to be like, well, I used to really like to ride my bike. I was like, oh, that's cool. What kind of bike did you have? And then you're going to tell me. And then I'm going to be like, do you still have it? And you're going to be like, no, I sold it. And I'd be like, okay, darn. Well, if you got a new bike, like what bike would it be? Well, I would want the blah, blah, blah bike, but it's like $2,000. So I'm probably not going to get it anytime soon. And I would be like, well, did you know that, let's say we have like Christmas cash right now. And if we found 6 of your friends to help like get started with you this month, you would actually make more than that and you could buy that bike. And you might be like, oh, wow. Like I didn't think of that. But that makes it real for you. I'm not just telling you you can make this much money. I'm saying to you, you can get the bike to do the thing that you used to love. And that's going to give you an emotional pull to it. If you're inviting friends to start with you because emotionally you're like, ooh, the bike, right? That's going to feel even a lot different than imaginary money that people are like, I don't know if this is going to work or not, Deeper than that, I can say to you, so Bonnie, tell me more about riding a bike. Like, why did you love riding a bike? And then you're going to tell me, etc. We'll get to the point where you always wanted to do a marathon but never did. And then I'm going to be like, all right, Bonnie, so we are going to use getting this bike, paying for it with Plexus, and getting you healthy enough to participate in your first marathon as a goal. Then every time that I check in on you, or every time I see a little Facebook video of someone riding a bike with a motivational message or whatever else, guess who I'm going to think of? Bonnie. And I'm going to send it to you to keep you going and keep you pumped up. And then you are also going to know that and how to pump up and motivate your customer or your business builder or whatever, because you've really dug into them on an emotional level. So those vision casting calls, I think, are important for anyone, right? But I feel like they're specifically important for anyone who isn't like, love supplements, want to take them, no problem being committed. Can I take double? Like if they're not that excited, then they probably could benefit from a vision casting call. I really suggest that you schedule a vision casting call within the first 3 weeks of their order because we want it to happen before their second order comes to really keep them engaged and excited and having a goal and a plan. So, um, that was that. My challenge to you guys who are on here is whether it's with your upline or your upline, whatever, get somebody on the phone this week. Can be any type of call. It could be someone that you brought up Plexus with, and they're like, I really like natural things and I really like supplements, but I'm just so terrified it won't work for me. And I don't know. Like, it could just be someone that you're like, boy, if they had a little bit more belief, they would try this, right? It doesn't have to be a current customer. Or you can get a new business person and get them on a business call. I don't care. But my challenge to you guys is schedule a call with you and your upline or upline, whatever that looks like within the next week. So by next week today, try to get on the phone. I already talked about the telling them versus asking them. And then also I wrote, which I kind of touched on, but don't get in your head about asking them the blunt things like, oh, okay, it's fine that the Plexus business isn't for you. It's definitely not for everyone. What's your plan B to stop working 3 jobs if you're not going to do something like this? I feel like it's okay for us to be bold and ask that because most people do not have a plan B or they wouldn't be talking to us about maybe doing plexes in the first place. Like for real. Let's say weight, even health things. You know what? No, I don't think that this is going to work for me. I'm not going to try it, whatever. Okay, Bonnie, well, what's your plan B to lose weight? And then you might be like, well, Ozempic. And I'm going to be like, really? What things do you feel like Ozempic is going to be able to do for you that Plexus can't? Like, let's make a pro and cons list. Like, walk me through it. Anyone with half a brain is going to start to go through that pro and cons list of Ozempic versus Plexus and be like, right? And so then you're going to come to your own conclusion of why Plexus is probably the better choice. And I don't even have to tell you that. I'm just helping you to think through it. So if you're like, no, I don't think Plexus is going to work for me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what's your plan B? And then you're like, well, I'm probably going to apply to work part-time at the gas station down the street. Okay. Well, what do you feel like that's going to look like? Like, how many hours would you need to work at the gas station making $13 an hour to give yourself the extra money you need every month? You told me you needed about $1,000 extra a month. And then you add up the hours and you're like, holy crap, I would never see my kid. Well, you're right. You probably wouldn't. Did you know that you can sit on the couch and watch a movie with your kid while working your Plexus business? You're going to come to the natural conclusion yourself that maybe actually you should reconsider this. So just throwing that out there. Don't be afraid to be bold, to ask people bluntly. If this isn't right for you, that's cool, but tell me what is. I'm curious. They're probably going to end up being like, oh, wow, I didn't really think about it. Then the last thing is I really, really love her suggestions of the counter questions with objections, which I just touched on a little bit. But they say like, oh, I can't afford this, right? And then you put back to them a question of some sort. So I had suggested in my notes to you guys that if you are not confident on what to say for objections, there's that big list. I'm sure everyone has been tagged in it at least once by now, but the big list of like, I'm not a salesperson, I'm this and this. A lot of the objections she goes over in the book. And like what specific for plexus you can say back. But also, I really loved all of the things that she says back as well. So I just wrote down that if you guys don't feel super confident about answering objections, then we can either role play that too. I'm totally fine with that. I think Cass, remind me, maybe I'm wrong, but I either used you to help me role play with a builder before, or we role played, and it really was helpful, like for people to practice. So we can do that. But also, I think it's okay if you have a piece of paper or something you print out, whatever, and you write objections. And then you write like not salesperson. And then what are you going to say? And then, can't afford. What are you going to say? Like especially those like questions to ask back. If you just write them down and you have them on a sheet of paper and it's right there with your work stuff, and then someone's like, I'm so sorry, I can't afford it. Boom, you already, you don't have to think, you don't have to go looking for it. It doesn't have to be hard. Um, but that is all of my notes for today. So does anyone have anything they'd like to say or a question about this week's chapters? Okay. Well, I'm going to consider that's no questions, but I really want to challenge you guys. I don't know if you were trying to talk, Bonnie. It looked like maybe you were. Um, you were. Were
Go
you
ahead. I wanted to let Cass talk first because I feel like I am always talking
do it?
and Cass
I
isn't
like it, Bonnie.
talking.
Talk.
So. um, so the thing you were saying about just put them in the three-way, that worked really good for me with this most recent person. And with the previous person, even though Cass was busy and that girl was really fast on, like, she just wanted to order right that minute.
Hmm.
So, and I think I did that pretty well with her, even though she didn't want to get on a call because she's really good with computers. Um, but then I stayed in the chat while she was doing it. I did the share a cart thing, but then it gave her some other person as the
Yeah,
ambassador that
that's
I
been
never heard
glitchy
of.
lately.
So
So
then, so I had to give her like my regular link that wasn't a cart, and then she was able to do it. But it worked out okay. But with that glitch happening, it threw me off a little, and I forgot to talk to her about choosing the like between the two slims of
mhm.
hunger control or but that was the only thing as far as doing it by myself for the first time. I think for that to be the only thing I missed, it was pretty good, especially because I was in the middle of like this huge family barbecue and it was like this crazy chaotic thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I gotta go upstairs because I have this new customer that wants to start right this minute,
Mhm. Mhm.
so it turned out good, and she's loving the products and everything. But
Good.
every time I bring up the business, she's like, I'll let you know. um but I know she does two other MLMs, so that's fine. But this new person that just ordered, maybe we can schedule a welcome
Definitely.
call with her. And that one, I was like, she replied to my first message, and I was kind of talking about products, but I was leading with the business opportunity. And then she's like, oh my gosh, I could never. There's no way I could start a business right now because I'm so sick. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh, and I don't know if she misunderstood from the first message that it's like start the business if you want the products type of thing. And then I was like, well, of course, like not everybody's in the place where they want to start a business. I said, but these products would be amazing for everything that you just said you're struggling with. And I gave her some information and some testimonies, and she was like, yes, you know?
So
So,
two
and
things. I'm thinking. So first, I want you to find Leah's testimony where she talks about how she was literally bedridden, like could not get out of bed when Jamie was like, "Hey, do you want to do this business?" Because Jamie didn't even know
uh-huh.
she was sick. Because that might show her, oh, a person can literally be bedridden and start this business. And you can just say, I know that you don't feel well enough right now, but I saw this and this is like my upline, right? Like it's Leah. She's amazing. And I just thought that it would really inspire you to see what's possible. So you can like send her that testimony. But then the next thing too is I want you to be sure that you stay really excited for her. Like any tiny win that she's like, oh my gosh, I had a bit more energy today, anything, like just make like the biggest deal out of it ever because
Okay.
that's gonna like keep her excitement up. And it's really hard to feel excited when you feel like crap, which I know you know.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited, Bonnie, that it felt easier to you. And even if you were on
Yeah.
your own, you were like, you know what, I can figure this out. And it's not, the end of the world. I think that that's really important because there are going to be those times where like Cass isn't available, I'm not available. Like you're like, what do I do? Right? Um,
Yeah.
but the more that we do it, the more confident you can get. So yeah, that's just super exciting. But
And I don't think that's typical that the person goes that quickly through the process. But then this other lady did go pretty fast too. I was like, as soon as she saw the testimonies and my message about you don't have to start a business to benefit from these products, and she was still interested, then I was like, okay, I'm going to open up a three-way chat with my friend Cassandra. She's way more knowledgeable about all this than I am. She's an RN. She'll be able to really help you, especially with all of your medical issues. I want to make sure you're getting all the best info. And then we popped that in, and I think it was just a couple hours later, she was like, okay. Like,
So
she just really desperately needs it.
there's two parts in that. I don't want to say no, that's not typical, because the truth is people who are ready to feel better, or people who are ready to not be broke anymore, like whatever it is, they're ready. When you are like praying
True.
to God, like, I need help, I need an answer, I am struggling, I am suffering, you are ready and open. And so our
Mhm.
job is to seek out the open people. I want you to think about, like, people make a lot of fun of it, but Jehovah's Witnesses, they go and they knock on the door and they ask, like, do you want to talk? Right? So what they're doing, they're not expecting everyone to say yes, but they're looking for the people that are like, you know what? Yeah, today's the day for me, right? And then they go in and they
Mhm.
spend hours with them and etc. So what we
Right.
are doing is we are knocking on doors and saying like, "Hey, would you like to talk about plexus?" Right?
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
what we're doing. And if you are ready, if you're looking for it, then you're just ready. And if you're not, they're like, go away. And you're like, okay, bye. But that doesn't mean that no one ever knocks on their door again, right? They don't,
Right.
right. They're like, maybe tomorrow you'll be ready. Maybe in 6 weeks you'll be ready. And so that's that part about not being emotionally attached to it. And I think when we kind of take that pressure off ourselves and you're like, I'm going to knock on 10 doors today and see if they want to talk about Jesus, right? Not that that's what we're doing, but and if anyone wants to, cool. And if not, I knocked on my 10 doors. And you just keep
Mhm.
doing that. Um, that's what we're doing with Plexus. And so when you are in a position where your intentions are truly like, I just want to find someone to help, you're gonna find those people to help. And then those people are going to be ready and they're going to be like, let's do this. You
Mhm.
are going to, of course, find those lukewarm in the middle people who need to think about it and this, that, and they're kind of like, maybe I'll go to church just on Easter and Christmas, but if you think about it, in that comparison, there's going to
Mhm.
be those people. But I noticed that when my mindset is super focused on, I just want to help people and I just want to share what we have. Like, I just want to be like, want to read the Bible with me, And like, if they do, they do. And if they don't, they don't. When your mindset is there, I feel like those people just kind of like are there. And then you're like, oh, wow, like that wasn't actually that hard or that bad, or, oh, they were ready. Now, am I saying, Bonnie, you're never going to find anyone that takes like 6 months to order or anything? Of course not. But when you're showing your true heart and you're showing that you just care and that you want to help and there's no pressure and it's truly just like, if you want this, you can take it, right? And if you don't, that's okay too. But I've got
Mhm.
something really cool if you want it. People respond to that a lot differently than when you're like, oh, no one wants to hear about it. And you're like knocking the door and you're like sound depressed and like, do you want to hear about God today? Like they're gonna be like, what? You know? So where you're at right now, Bonnie, your energy, your mindset, all of that is like super, super attractive to people. You're very nurturing, you're very caring, you're very genuine. You are willing to admit, like, I don't know that sometimes, or like whatever that is. And that attracts the ready people to you. I'm sure if you compare it to religion again, like I just gave of that example, you've probably seen like pastors and stuff that really turn you off. And then ones that you're like, "Ooh, I want to hear more of what they have to say," right? And it's whatever energy they have and it's what they're putting out. And so right now, Bonnie, you are in a place of growth and you are in that like very attractive place to people where they feel safe to explore if they're ready or not. And that is part of why we talk about mindset so much and doing things like those visualizations so much. Because when you're in that space, then you are like that pastor or whoever that you're like, oh, wow, like I really liked how they talked about that. I want to hear more. And you're kind of like sucked into them. So, right now, Bonnie, you are in a place where people are being sucked into you. And that's a really good and really excited thing. And I'm sure someday, which I'm not wanting this to happen, but someday you'll have a bad day or be in a bad mood or like whatever. And you will notice if you pay attention that you're not sucking in like and attracting those ready people to you. Like everyone will say no or block you right away or just whatever. And you'll be like, what in the world? But it's you, it's that vibration, that energy, that like excitement and positivity. So just be sure that you really keep focusing on your mindset and stuff because it makes a huge difference. And I think it's safe to say that you're noticing a huge difference in your business right now with all this big growth you're doing and this like really intentional stuff and working hard to overcome your own objections. I think you're really like, oh wow, this it does make a difference, you know.
Yeah.
So
And I think the proof is in the pudding because last time I really was trying to do the business, I think it was like toward the end of 2023. And when I first was like, okay, yes to the business, and I was just really doing it because I needed the money to pay for Caden to have the products. And but then I didn't like the approaches that you guys wanted me to use. I thought the systems were just not attractive ways to do business. And I was like, okay, I'll do it because they said to. And, because I knew that God told me to go forward with the business, even though I was like, why do I have to do this, God? But
I love that.
but then
Why?
doing it with that attitude and then doing the Eric Worre thing and then sending the messages just because he said I had to and everything. And even though I was using the words that they told me to use, very similar to what I'm saying now, it was really of a, I don't think this is going to work. People aren't going to want to talk to me. People are going to ignore me. And when they ignored me, I took it all very personally. And it was like every time someone didn't respond to a message, I was like, see, I knew this was BS. I knew
Exactly.
this wasn't going to work to myself,
Yeah, so
but
that vibe,
it's
that
still,
energy, that
I got
mindset.
no results. And
Right.
now I'm like, I really get it and I really understand and I see it working and I'm doing it expecting it to work now that it worked one time. And but it's just,
It's
and all of a sudden I'm just getting so much better responses. And even though right now, yeah, for January I've just got the one new VIP so far, but the conversations that I'm getting going, even just on the non-plexus
yeah,
conversations, where when I tried to start conversations with people before, even if I didn't, my first message wasn't like, hey, you want to talk about plexus, just trying to start conversations, people didn't respond to me. Even comments, and when I would comment on their posts and I would try asking a question, they would not respond, and so now people respond and talk to me, and some of them have been shocking. I'm like, that one message that you gave us, that's like, if there's good things going on in your life, I want to celebrate with you. If there's struggles, and I've had some people, one lady was like, what made you send me this message right now? I literally just came out of a prayer meeting and I really need somebody to pray for me. And I was like, Lord Jesus, help me,
yeah,
literally, because I felt really unqualified, but I did it anyways. And now me and her have been talking since last week. And
so
it
exciting.
turns out she's a single mom. She's dealing with her husband that she's been separated for not from for 9 years because of his mental health, and so many similarities to what me and her are going through. And she's up in British Columbia, and I'm like, if the things keep going the way we're going in the conversation, I might stop and visit her on my way to my brother's wedding in June.
That's so
It's that
exciting.
much of a like. And
So,
so
Bonnie, this is why we do the visualization. This is why we do affirmations. This is why we work on our mindset so hard. Because if you're telling yourself, no one wants to talk to me, this isn't going to work, and all that negativity, it makes it real. Like to me, this
it's
is what it
weird
means.
though.
This is what manifesting is
Yeah.
in what I think of it is, if you believe, just like if you pray to God to help you with the situation and you believe that he will, right? Things
Hmm.
always work out. If you pray to God and you're like, whatever, it's probably not going to get better, nothing changes.
Right.
So, Bonnie, I want to say one thing so that I don't forget. I want you to write a post or do a video just about what we just talked about. And I want
Uh-huh.
you to put it in the, it's now Flourish. I keep calling it Pink Power and BU. Good Lord, I'm never going to end. Um, but put it in the Flourish and tag me, and then I'll approve it. But I want you to talk to people about their mindset, Bonnie. I want you to say, here's where I was, here's what I thought. I tried just doing it anyways while telling myself, nope, this isn't going to work. And nothing happened. And now here's what I'm doing. And this is what's happened in like the last 2 months in my business. This is how I feel about it. I'm developing friendships and genuine connections with people. And I feel really good about what I'm doing every day because, Bonnie, what you're talking about this lady, whether she does plexus or not, but you know what? Maybe she'll end up being a person going on those Hawaiian cruises with you as a diamond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is what it's about. It's about loving on people and loving on them well. Because even if her, for an example, never does plexus, if plexus gets mentioned anywhere, she's going to be like, you know what? I know a plexus girl and she is like my best friend. She is amazing. I just love her. And that's going to help your business. Or she's going to refer people to you. Or, I mean, it just grows. And so that is why we have to be excited about what we do. I wrote a post in the team page. I didn't tag you yet, I don't think, but I will. But it's about having pride in your business and like, are you really proud of what you're doing? But I want you to do a video on that because there's so many newer people or even Cass, like we went through the same thing with her. There was a long time of her not believing that she could do this and a long time of her not believing it could work. And now things are so different for her. Like she re-ranked gold, like all of this stuff, right? Because of her mind and because of what she believed. And so I think you can testify, Bonnie, that you don't get it until you get it. But then once you get it, you're like, oh my gosh, I could have done that so long ago. But
Right. But I couldn't believe it until it happened to me that believing at first could change things. I'm thinking these are text message words in Messenger
yeah,
that there's no way in the world for the other person receiving it or comments or whatever to know if I believed in it when I wrote it or if I thought they were going to like so I was just like, there's no way that changing my belief can in advance can change the outcome. I just couldn't accept that, you know?
but this proves to you that I guess like I believe that humans communicate verbally, right? We communicate in body language, but we also communicate in our energy. Like I
Yeah.
really believe that. Have you ever like walked into a room and like you just feel weird about the people that are there and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, like what is that?" And no one said anything, no one did anything, but you just like have a weird vibe. Or you meet someone and you just feel like so safe and comfy around them and you're like, "That is weird. I don't know them at all, but like I just feel good with
Yeah.
them." That's that energetic communication that I think that we have with people. And so I think that this, Bonnie, if you do a video, or if you don't want to do a video, do a post. I think it will help so many new people because what it really comes down to is you owe yourself the chance to believe first. You
Mm-hmm.
owe yourself that. Like you owe you that, Bonnie. You owe your son that. And now that you were like, okay, fine, like I believe it will, let's just see, right? Now you're seeing that proof in the pudding. And so that's just huge. And it just makes me so happy because we can tell you that all day long. Like we can talk about visualization, we can talk about affirmations, we can talk about your mindset, like we can, but you just don't get it till you get it. So I'm just so
And
happy.
I guess I want to say this because I'm going to use the recording of this when I'm going to make the video that you're
Okay.
asking me to make so I can remember what we said, right? But
It
also
is
this,
gonna kick us off
I
really soon, just so you know, if it
okay, I'll go
but
really fast. It was the difference, but I get the energy and the everything in person. I just didn't comprehend. I didn't think it could. How can it travel through a text? That's what I wasn't understanding. How
God.
it could matter. So, and that's